I was only a baby, maybe just 1 year or two. My mom was pregnant with my brother, who in 3 months was due, and my family knew about disparages after mom kept having miscarriages. But things were now clicking. My family was just beginning to grow, and I had no idea how bad dad was slipping. I'm an infant. I can't comprehend shit, like alcoholism and probably severe depression. As far as I'm concerned, as long as I've got a wiper for my tushy when I fill the diaper, make it all mushy, then life can just push you along. Mom, I'm hungry. Pass me your boobie to suckle on. But let me get back to the tragic, uplifting tale you were hearing about my dad from when he was a failure. We were up at the cottage while he was down at the office, drinking like a pro, lawyering like a novice. His practice was more of a case of humility when vodka came first and then came virility. The first time I heard this upcoming story, tears filled me, then spilled on the floor. They were pouring to know how close I came to my life never being the same. So I won't wait any longer. Into my past, let's wander. Random weekday morning, dad's alarm clock rouses him from snoring. Time to wake up and start supporting your family, a wife and 2 kids with another bun in the oven. Forming, I hope you've got a water bottle because the temperature is scorching. But my dad doesn't need a water bottle because he's got a vodka bottle in a paper bag going full throttle in his Volvo on the highway. This is my father, a drunk driving lawyer, my role model. And the piece of shit Volvo starts to wobble, breaks down. Dad gets out, has to fix the damn auto, wallowing, sipping liquor, swallowing his own sorrow, burying it deep down so he might see tomorrow. And as he stands on the tarmac, the sun beats his back, his life's gone numb, he only sees black. But when he looks to his right, he sees a Mack truck coming full speed, and he thinks, well, what the fuck? What's a wife? What's 2 kids? What's a third on the way right now? I just want to escape today. So you guessed it, he stepped in front of that rig, tried to bail at the last second, but he got hit, smacked, flung, peeled off the pavement. My dad should have been deader than the caveman. But he woke up in the hospital, only lost his sense of smell. He could see, he could hear, taste, and feel. He could walk when he should have been split like a banana peel. And that was the last straw. That day on the highway that my dad saw his life end but was given a second attempt, and since hasn't had a sip of alcohol. Dad jumped in front of an 18-wheeler. Because in his card game of life, he didn't like his dealer, but obviously God liked him, seeing as he spared him when he could have just as easily killed or wheelchaired him, and that sadness would have been bottomless. Not to mention that I would have had to grow up fatherless. Vacations on the beach would have been much different. Who knows if vacations would have even been existent. Growing up wondering who my dad was and why he died. Who would have taught me to tie a tie? Who would have taught me to shave or play baseball? Get up with my head up if I try but still fall. And if the Mack truck left you lifeless, Mom's days would have been nightless. And it's amazing. If you were to meet my dad today, you would say I was crazy. You would say that there's no way that this is the guy from the story about the drunkard, because he's the happiest man that I've ever encountered. The fucking dad of the century. Wrapped up in love like a present heaven sent to me, and I vent these words sentimentally, semi-mentally, unsteadily. I bring up these memories, but nothing feels better than getting these thoughts out eventually, instead of just letting these knots in my stomach build up until I'm filled up with negative energy and become my own enemy. My dad's life is a felony, stolen from the pavement in a rig, traveling at high velocity, and that's why I thank God for these averted catastrophes that gave my dad a new chance to father me. I never knew my father when he drank. I've only ever known him as a slogan on t-shirts and coffee mugs, world's greatest dad. I was 13 when I heard the story of how he almost died. It made very little sense to me because he really is one of the happiest people in the world. Yes, I've seen him yell before. Yes, I've pissed him off before. No, he isn't literally a ball of love and support and wisdom and genuine compassion, because those are abstract nouns, but man, does he ever come close. Now, after hearing the highway story, I was smart. I decided that I wouldn't drink alcohol until I was the legal age of 19 to avoid claiming a potentially hereditary dependency upon it. I was also stupid. I decided that I should do a bunch of drugs instead. Now, smoking weed and trying hallucinogenics in high school never bothered me that much. I don't regret those choices because I'm still fascinated by the idea that a substance can alter the way my brain thinks about something. I've gained outlooks that I still have to this day from a $10 bag of poison fungus. I know I'd be able to understand the concept of feeling in tune with the earth, but I don't know if I ever would have felt it so intensely if I hadn't tripped out on shrooms that one time in Rosedale Valley. But when I started taking cocaine somewhat frequently, weekend use for mainly about a year at age 21, it was nothing but a decoy escape route that led right into a brick wall. And debt. There is a reason coke costs $80 a gram. It works every time, and it makes you feel like King S of F Mountain, but I won't actually start listing its negative traits because I've only got 18 minutes total for this talk. So when I tell people I haven't done coke in 7.5 years, they say, well, how did you quit? Isn't it so addictive? Yeah, it's very addictive. That's why I did it for a year. But this one night, when I looked at myself in the bathroom mirror at 2 o'clock in the morning, skin breaking out from the white powder ravaging my pores, nose clogged from the self-induced, ever-present sniffles, wide-eyed with my lower jaw jittering back and forth, when I saw myself at the ugliest that I had ever seen myself before, I asked myself, what am I doing? I had no reason to be doing it. I was never abused, neglected, impoverished. I had no reason to rebel and nothing to rebel against. And then I asked myself, what would Dad think if he saw me right now? I have never had to fight for my father's approval. He has been throwing it. Scratch that. He's been lobbing approval up to me right in my sweet spot forever. And he never spoiled me, and he never made me think things were going to come easy, and he never really did anything except love the hell out of me. So what would he think if he saw me right now? Alcoholism drove him to a highway where he tried dying, just like he tried liquor, just like I tried coke. So how did I quit? Quitting cocaine was one of the easiest things I've ever done in my life. Now, before I call myself stupid for saying that I decided to do a bunch of drugs, after saying what I just said out loud, I don't feel stupid, I feel lucky. I'm lucky that I have all of these experiences and that they didn't bury me. I'm lucky that I let them shape me, but not define me. And to be clear, quitting cocaine was easy, but loving myself again took 2 more years. I do have a mother. She's a teacher. She's incredibly loving, courageous, smart woman. She's made mistakes, but she has the guts to fail. She has her own set of personal issues, as everyone does. She's battled eating disorders, depression, loneliness. She's checked herself into the psych ward before, the one where you can't have anything sharp. History lesson. My parents got divorced in 1998. Me, my brother, and my sister lived with my mom in the burbs. Saw my dad in the burbs Wednesday every other weekend. Mom got a boyfriend. He moved in. Dad moved into his girlfriend's, who's now my stepmother. She's amazing. Mom then moved downtown. So me, mom, brother, sister, and mom's boyfriend, John, lived downtown. It was awesome. Saw Dad Wednesdays every other weekend in the burbs. John and Mom broke up. Great. We never liked him too much anyways. He was kind of a jerk. He moved back to Alberta. Bye-bye. See you later. So it was me, Mom, brother, sister, downtown, Dad, Wednesdays every other weekend in the burbs. It was as picture perfect as a broken family could possibly have been. It was 2002. I was at overnight camp. I was 17 on first-year staff, and I was going home to Toronto for a day off. So I called my mom. No answer. I called my friend, and he said that he spoke to my mom, which isn't actually that weird because she was friends with all of my friends, but he said that she told him some pretty whack news. Okay, what kind of whack, turn your phones off, guys. Okay, what kind of whack news could he hit me with? I've been through a lot with this woman called Mom at this point in my life. How whack could it be? So I said, what, is John moving back from Edmonton to live with us again? And he said, not exactly. That was weird. So I said, what is Mom moving to Edmonton to live with John? And then I laughed. And then he said nothing. And then I hung up and got Mom on the phone and found out that our house had been sold, and when I got home from camp, I'd be packing up and moving to Dad's in the suburbs, and she would be packing up and moving to Edmonton. 0 consultation, gone. Across the country, 4-hour flight or a 3-day drive just to have dinner with my mother. So I demanded that she come and pick me up from camp immediately. It was pouring rain. And in the 2-hour drive home, I had already forgiven her and wished her the best on her new journey. The rain stopped. Somehow I got it. She wanted out, she wanted to leave, and she went for it. Brilliant concept. Yes. It sucked realizing that I would be seeing my mother a whole lot less, but if she was going to be happier, then who was I to get in her way? Yes. It sucked moving from the downtown back to the burbs, but my dad and stepmom always had great food in the fridge, and my stepmother is a lovely woman, arguably as loving and supporting as my father, if you can believe that. It's almost nauseating, almost. Look, nobody died, nobody got sick, nobody lost a limb. She was just moving. She carried me inside of her for 9 months. If she wanted to go and live in another province, how can I stop her? And after a few years in Alberta, she did something that she's wanted to do since she was 25 years old. She packed up and moved to Israel. That's been her dream for a very long time. She chased it, she now lives it, and that dream comes with sacrifices, mainly that she's a 12-hour, $1,200 flight away from her children, but she is right now in the thick of experiencing something that she has wanted to experience since she was 25 years old. That's pretty cool. I eventually moved out of the burbs. When I was 19, I went to Humber College for their comedy writing and performance program, and have been attempting to make a life and a career out of my art ever since, with more than a few bumps along the way. So, in a nutshell, that is my past. That is the abridged Coles Notes version of the history of my life. That is my foundation. That is the ground that I stand on as I walk backwards into the future. The future that I cannot see, and the present is changing by the second. So of course, the past has shaped me. It is come on, get it together, guys. The past is my only reference to what it means to be alive. And every single person in this room right now has a past, and they are all unique. The past is the fingerprint that we are perpetually leaving on the world, and no two fingerprints are exactly alike. The past gives us our values, whether we're optimistic or pessimistic, our general outlook on the way the world operates, and we use that stuff all the time to make decisions in our present state that will affect our future state. But that does not mean that we are hardwired or pre-programmed to live our lives on a set path. We, humans, got really, really lucky. We are allowed to have the courage to let the past shape us, but not define us. And that shape can be cool. It's your whole life, man. That's your whole past. It does not have to be a square, but it has to be a malleable shape. You can't say, oh, I was raised this way, so this is how I am now. Look, nurture is big. It plays a huge role in shaping us, but there's that little piece of nature kicking around in all of us, that magic, and we can't ignore it because that is our superpower. If the past defined us, no one would do anything cool. There would be no iPhones. What would we do if there were no iPhones? I don't even know how I would have gotten here today if there were no iPhones, okay? If the past defined me, I'd be strung out on drugs, sinking in debt, possibly dead within a couple of years, because I was raised with so much support that I never had to worry about proving myself, but I didn't want that. Even though my parents loved me unconditionally, I still made them crazy. I still dropped out of said comedy school with 1 semester left because I wasn't enjoying myself. Why? Because I wanted to. I wanted to make my own mistakes and learn from them. And I am still doing that very frequently to this day, probably up until this moment. Acknowledge your weaknesses. I know mine. I talk too much. I put my foot in my mouth. I talk too fast sometimes. I can be obnoxious. The list goes on and on. I'm working on those things every single day. If there's a part of yourself that you don't like, you can change that part of yourself without changing who you are, because you can't change who you are. You will be you forever. I have a really close friend, Kate. She's an insanely talented comedian, and she's been doing a lot of soul searching in the past few years. She's been mistreated by certain figures in her life, causing a lot of trust issues and insecurities, and she recently told me that she feels she can be too brutal with people when they upset her, and she doesn't like that part of herself. She gets very defensive and emotional, and she goes into attack mode. And she said she's like that because of her past, and she's scared that if she changes that part of herself, if she loses that fiery passion, then she won't be herself anymore. Now, I'm very, very close friends with her, so I can be brutally honest with her as well, and I said, Kate, that is such a cop-out. I said, that fiery passion that you're talking about, that is your superpower. That is not going anywhere. You're gonna have that for the rest of your life. It's what makes you smart and funny and driven and insanely talented. It will make you very, very successful one day, but if you use that superpower when it's not necessary, it can do evil. It can alienate her from people. It can make her look weak and self-conscious. And if she really, really doesn't like that part of herself, she can change that part of herself. She just has to acknowledge it and make a real effort. And I mean a real effort. I mean, you can't lose 500 pounds in 24 hours. I mean, you need to work on it every single day and make a shitload more mistakes along the way. But if you really don't like that part of yourself, you can change it. And a week later, Kate came up to me and she said that she is using her superpower to stop, think, breathe, and assess the situation before possibly overreacting to something that isn't such a big deal. So Kate is making the decision to learn from her past in order to define her own future, and that's one of the bravest things that a person can do. I have another friend, my best friend, Jay. We come from completely opposite upbringings. His dad belted him when he mouthed off, and he has never had the approval that a son so desperately seeks from his father. If the past defined Jay, he'd be working as a construction worker or a contractor or an accountant or something to appease his family, but it didn't define Jay. Jay whipped his dad back with a metaphorical belt by going to comedy school, which is where I met him 10 years ago, and never before have I met somebody who shares such a similar outlook on comedy, writing, rapping, performing, music, food, everything. It's almost frightening. Two people, completely different pasts colliding because we chose to try to define our own futures. In September of 2012, I was on the balcony of the Drake Hotel in Toronto, drinking. It was after one of our monthly comedy shows, and on a whim, I decided to move to New York City in January. I walked up to Jay, I said, Jay, we're gonna move to New York City in January. He looked at me and he said, okay. In January of 2013, we moved to New York City. And it felt like skydiving. It was absolutely terrifying up until the moment that I jumped, and then ever since I got off the bus, I have just felt like I'm flying. My mother taught me that change is never wrong. She packed up and moved to Edmonton. She packed up and moved to Israel. Rumor is she's packing up and moving back to Canada because she misses her family. I packed up and moved to New York. And I haven't regretted moving to New York for an instant. It's really been one of the best things that I've ever done in my life. I mean, sure, I lived in a one-bedroom with 4 people for the first year, but I did what I had to do, and I did it with a smile on my face most of the time. Life is a giant Lego box, and only on our last day will it be completely put together, so you might as well have fun building it because it's also non-refundable. New York is a place that moves so fast, it's easy to let your past get lost in the melee. I see it as a place that is putting some pretty incredible pieces in my Lego box. I come from a world of validation. That is a dangerous superpower to be given. Sorry, my dad's right there. Being told you're great all the time and that you can do anything you want is a really dangerous superpower to have. I have to keep myself in check and stay really, really humble and constantly challenge myself to improve as a person, but more than validation, I come from a world of love. And coming from a world of love, it is impossible to not want to put as much love back into the world as I can. And that is how I'm choosing to define myself. How will you choose to define yourself?